Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Entrepreneurial Lunch and Learn offered by the Lawrence and Field Center for Entrepreneurship here at Baruch College. I am Gary Smalls, the program coordinator here at the Field Center. The Field Center for Entrepreneurship is a multifaceted division at Baruch College offering free services and programs for the entrepreneurial community. Today's Lunch and Learn webinar is presented today by Dr. Lesley, the founder of Quality Movement Restoration. Quality Movement Restoration's mission is to help active individuals with or without low back issues restore their movement limitations without invasive procedures, teaching them how to invest in their own body to restore their active lifestyle and things they love to do with decreased movement limitations. So thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Lesley. Please feel free to tell our audience a little bit about yourself before you start your presentation.
I appreciate that, Gary. Just like Gary said, I'm Dr. Lesley Devoliere Jr., founder and physical therapist of Quality Movement Restoration. So, been a physical therapist going on 4 years now. Time flies. It's crazy. I graduated with my doctorate in physical therapy in 2019. And I did my schooling in Georgia, Gainesville, Georgia, about 20 miles north of Atlanta. And I graduated in 2019. I moved back to New York. I'm originally from New York, and I started my career in 2019. And I worked for a corporate company for about 8 months, and then 2020 hit, right? So 2020 was the year where the whole world just had to adjust to a whole bunch of stuff. So I actually got furloughed, so AKA laid off, but that left a sour taste in my mouth, and that's how the entrepreneurial mindset started coming about. And before I jump into that, today I want to talk about like mental health and pretty much what I had to do to make sure that I can handle fear pursuing entrepreneurship. So once I got furloughed, before I went and did my own thing, I had a sense of feeling like God was talking to me to start my own thing, but I was just scared, right? And fear is something that hits all of us. And if we don't tackle fear, it's one of those things that you never really unlock your potential. So before I get into that, I want to talk to you a little bit more about where I headed in my physical therapy career. So once I got furloughed, I applied to a job in the city in Manhattan, and when I started working there, I just wasn't feeling the company culture was cool, but salary wise, it wasn't cutting the bills in regards to what I needed. So I ended up leaving that, and then also I got a side job working home care physical therapy. So physical therapy, there's different departments where you could work in. You'll see physical therapists in the hospital. You'll see physical therapists in outpatient clinics. Um, and what I do, which I'm gonna talk about, performance physical therapy. So I did home care at the time. It paid well, and I was able to keep some flexibility working part time. So I did that, and as I'm going working part time, I'm still battling, the fear handling, and God is still telling me, look, you got to do this. So when I got furloughed, I had a couple clients reach out to me saying, "Hey, Dr. Lesley, we really love the value that you provided to us. How can we work with you?" And I'm telling her that, well, I don't have my own thing set up, why, I don't know if I can work with you. And she was like, no, like, she insisted. So I didn't know anything about business. I didn't have anything set up. So around that time, I'm still like fearful, like, why does this person trust me? Like, would they even like, pay me? Right. So when that happened, I was like, okay, like, let me just, let me, sorry about that. My phone fell. let me just entertain this client that trusts me. And I did home care on my personal by my personal self. So I went to my lady's house, and I treated her. I actually treated her daughter. So my first client in business was 102-year old. Yes, 102-year-old. And she was very, very active, very, very active. And her daughter really, really insisted I work with her because she loved the work that I did. And from there, she paid me. And once she paid me to work with her mom, I looked back and I said, wow, like I'm valued, right? I'm valued, and somebody will actually like pay for our services, for my services. So at this time, I'm still going through like fear handling, like how do I mentally like, break through and create a business out of this. So at this time, I'm still talking to God, like, is this really what you want me to do, right? So from there, I had to figure out, okay, how can I handle my fear, right? And that's what I really want to talk to you guys about, how to handle fear, how to take care of your mental health, how to take care of your mental wellness to really unlock your full potential. So the first thing that I did, I seeked out mental health counseling. And around that time in 2020, this is also when George Floyd got murdered. And me being a black male, a black medical provider, there's not a lot of us, especially black male physical therapists. So when I was working in corporate, I'm looking in rooms and all I see is myself. So, and then at the time in 2020, there was a lot of anxiety being built up, um, with police and, the black community. And then just in general with me, just going through corporate America, right? So I really had to take care of that. So I did a shout out to my mental health counselor, Isaac Collins, really great. So I was able to talk to him about my anxiety with, just the pressure of being a black male in America, and also the position that I had being a physical therapist, just a medical provider, right? And we handled that in our sessions. And then also I was talking to him about, potentially starting my business. And he just did wonders in regards to like me tackling that fear. We were able to really dive deeper into, what was holding me back. Um, Part of it was like the anxiety with, just like I said, the pressures of the day-to-day being a black male. Um, and going through our sessions, he really made me dive deep and see my value and handle my fear by talking it out, right? So a lot of times in the black community, we tend to hold things in regards to what's bothering us. And that was one of the things that was holding me back. It's like I would hold everything in and not express it. And just to even walk you guys back, when I was in pursuing my doctorate of physical therapy, we had to do clinicals and rotations. And I did my schooling in Georgia, like I mentioned, and I was outside of Atlanta. And I remember having a racial encounter with a white male patient. And I was reading the calendar for the schedule, and he comes up to me boldly and says, "You're not kidding anybody. You know you can't read that." So that was trauma, and I never really addressed it. In school, I did on the back end, but it was never addressed in the moment. And in that moment, instead of flipping out, cursing them out, which is what I wanted to do, I was just thinking to myself the consequences of if I do that, me losing my position. So I just held that in. And then, like I said, fast forward to 2020, when everything happened, with George Floyd being murdered, just everything just being held in, it just held me back mentally. And through our sessions, I was really able to talk that out with him, and that just like cleared a lot of fear right there, because I was able to express myself. And one thing I want to say, expressing yourself is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. So one thing I learned in my therapy sessions, vulnerability is a sign of leadership, it's a sign of strength. And that's one thing I'm way better at now. Um, and whether it's seeking mental health counseling or just talking to somebody that would listen, that is very beneficial in regards to unlocking like your potential. So I'll say that was step one for me, right? In regards to really flourishing and starting a business. Because you can learn all the marketing schemes, all the sales schemes, which are important. But the first thing that if you invest in a business coach, which I did, they'll teach you is handling fear and mindset. So that's why I really want to talk about this topic, and I'm passionate about it. So that was step one for me, is doing mental health counseling to tackle my personal trauma and fear in regards to the day to day of what I was dealing with. So the next thing that really helped me break through in regards to handling my fear to start my practice in business was I read this book called The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz, and game changer for sure. So this book really teaches you how to be personally free, how to essentially not deal with fear because you are personally free. And for the ones that want to read the book, I don't want to ruin the book for you, but I'll just talk about pretty much the four agreements that are in there. And then obviously, like if you do read the book, which I recommend, you'll be able to see how he details out each agreement. So I'll let us share this with you. So the first agreement is don't don't take anything. Actually, I'm sorry. The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. So what that means is just being honest, being truthful, saying what you feel, right? Which what I talked about in counseling, just getting things off your chest, not holding it in. That will set you free personally and knock out fear, right? So that's agreement one. Be impeccable with your word. Agreement number two is don't take anything personally, right? Now, there's some things that, if somebody disrespects you, yes, that's different. But if you really think about it, when we wake up, we take a lot of things personal that are not even personal, and that just creates drama, right? It just creates stress and anxiety, right? Just talking to a family member, and they give you an honest opinion, and you take it personal. Right now, you're thinking about what that person said, and it affects your day, right? It may not affect your day, but it affects your psyche. So, but if you have a mindset, don't take anything personally. Now you are guarding your mental health to live a life to where you're not carefree, but you don't let another person's words affect your mood. And that is one of the things that prior did affect me, right? Like, let's say you want to start a business and somebody says, "Oh, that's not going to work," right? I don't think that's going to work. I don't think you're fit for it. If you take that personally, now it affects you. But if you now use that, don't take anything personal, like you could use that as motivation, which most people do, and you don't take that to the heart, right? Now, if somebody disrespects you, that's something different, right? But in regards to like the day-to-day stuff that we usually hear in conversations, we take a lot of things personal, and it just affects relationships. It affects like your mood and just honestly your purpose and potential. So he talked about that in that book, and that was agreement number two. Agreement number three is don't make assumptions. So once again, we make assumptions on people, we make assumptions on on situations, and that causes anxiety, unwarranted anxiety, and and yeah, it just creates drama for yourself and your personal mental wellness, right? So, for example, if somebody doesn't text you back, right? Let's say you text them at 8 in the morning and they didn't text you back all day, right? Then the next day comes, they don't text you back. Now, this is somebody that you have a relationship with, and you now you're thinking like, oh, like they're ignoring me, right? But that's an assumption, right? They may be busy. So instead of making that assumption, you could ask them a question saying that, hey, like, I'm really looking for a response to this text. Everything okay, right? So now you can get confirmation with that. And that's just an example, but just in general in life, like, in that book, he talks about try not to assume because it creates like unwarranted anxiety. Instead, just ask questions. And then growing up in school, I always was afraid to ask questions, and that built up anxiety. But the person that asks questions is really the wise one, and he talks about that. So that's agreement number three. And agreement number four was do your best in everything that you touch, right? Nobody's perfect, and I think a lot of people hold back from business or just in general challenging themselves is because the human nature is to try to be a perfectionist, and perfection is the killer. I'm gonna say that again. Perfection is the killer. So it's the killer in goals, and it's the killer in business. There's a quote out there in business: 80% is good enough, right? And so if you just do your best, though, you give your best effort, people will see that, and your goals will come true if you just do your best in everything that you touch. And reading that book really changed my mindset uh, in regards to how I handle my personal relationships, and it helped me out in business too. Because now, if I go meet a business owner and I'm busy, I know they're busy, and I reach out to them, I email them, they don't respond back, I'm not taking that personally, right? Because at the end of the day, I didn't get confirmation on what's going on, and they never said like they don't want to work with us. So why assume that? So what I'll do, I'll actually check their schedule, see when they have some time. I'll drop in, and then they say, "Oh man, I've been meaning to meet you. Like, I've been meaning to respond, right?" So it's all good. But if I would have assumed, oh man, like they probably don't want to work with us. They probably don't like me, right? So now that just created unwarranted anxiety, right? And now you just missed out on a business relationship, right? And you could take this personally and business, right? So that book really changed my mindset. So once again, it's called The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz, if I'm pronouncing it right. Um, so that was step two for me in regards to like what changed things for me as far as like fear handling and mindset. And number three was I invested in business coaching, right? So I'm very big on mentorship. I had a mentor in school. Like I said, it's not a lot of black males in the physical therapy profession. So I did have a black male physical therapist that would mentor me, and I'm a mentor myself. I mentor a black male physical therapist. So I just want to move the game forward because I know it's important to have mentorship. And so now that I was tackling my fear handling, my mindset was really getting strong. Now, okay, I got to handle the business side. Okay, how do I market? How do I sell? All that good stuff, right? So investing in business coaching was a game changer for me as well, and they help you with mindset as well. So I remember getting on a call with his name is Roger, one of my business coaches, and he just challenged me in ways that that I really needed to hear. So for me, to be honest with you guys, I was new, fresh out of school. You know, I was only 8 months into my career, and like a year and a half out, and here I am, a black male, only a year and a half out, starting a business, a medical practice. So in my mind, you know, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm too young. I'm not ready, right? You know, and getting on the phone with Roger, one of the business coaches, he was really able to. And this business coach is also a physical therapist. So if you are going to invest in any type of coaching that you want to do, definitely want to make sure they're relatable to what you want to accomplish and what you want to do. So yeah, he just like, okay, so what? Like, so what, you young? So what, you just started? Like, you know, people out there need you. People out there, you know, need your impact, right? And and he dived deeper, but that call really helped me just just go for it. Just go for it, right? And I'm so glad that I did go for it because I already know like what I started has impacted so many people. And if I were to stay stuck in my own ways in regards to like, oh, I'm not ready, you know, I'll wait until like I'm 5 years into my career, which which now I would have missed out on helping so many people. And even like employing people, you know, we do have an office manager now, you know, so you know the fact that we get to employ people too. So it doing the business coaching really holds me accountable, which is very important in regards to, you know, what you want to accomplish, and even like tackling that fear, right? That mental, sometimes that mental block. But once you can tackle fear, which those three things, which those three things really help me do, now it's all about just maintaining, right? Because we're human, we're not perfect, and I'm going to talk to you about my routine in regards to how I maintain it. But you need that, those three things were the initial steps for me in regards to removing fear from essentially my life, you know, and anxiety from my life, right? So in particular into entrepreneurship, right? Because I felt like God was calling me to do this, but I was in my own way. And a lot of people feel that way, right? A lot of people feel that way. So just to recap, I seeked out mental health counseling. I read this book called The Four Agreements of How to Be Personally Free and tackle fear handling, and I invested in coaching, like business coaching for essentially what I wanted to do, right? So I do want to talk about this next piece, the routine, right? So what does my day to day look like? How do I handle the pressures of being a boss, right? And then also just the pressures of like growing your business and handling clientele and curating business relationships. So, and even also on top of that, you know, family time. I'm very big on family time, you know, having time with my wife, um, you know, checking in with my brothers and parents, right? So how do I handle all that? So what I my routine is that I do affirmations, right? So affirmations are really good, and I used to do them in the morning, but I do it before bed now because I actually was my guy Julian Gordon. He does real estate, and he said that, you know, doing affirmations right before bed really works on your subconscious mind. And when you wake up, it's like your conscious mind is just working, right? That's when the doubts happen. Like you just wake up in the morning, like, ah, man, it's gonna be a long day. It's gonna, you know, your conscious mind is working, right? But right before bed, that's when your conscious mind is slowing down, and now your subconscious mind is like racing. And then usually the subconscious mind is filled with negative thoughts, like, oh, this is not going to work, blah, 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 right? Because we see so much negative stuff, like scrolling down the timeline, or we compare lives, right? This person has this person has that. But now if you do affirmations right before bed, when you sleep, your subconscious mind is now thinking about the positive stuff that you're saying out to yourself in the mirror. I do it in the mirror. And now when you wake up, instead of thinking like, this is not going to work, your brain is thinking like, let's make this work, right? How is this going to work? Versus like, oh, that can't work. And that right there, I do that daily. I'm not perfect. Maybe I miss a night, but it's pretty much engraved in my subconscious mind. Therefore, fear doesn't creep back in. It's gone, right? Because my subconscious mind is strong. And also in business, it's not just all highs, it's a roller coaster. You're gonna have highs, you're gonna have lows. So working on your subconscious mind, it really helps you through that period of time where you have a low moment in business, right? So in regards to my affirmations, in regards to what I break it up in three categories. I do spiritual, I do personal, and I do business affirmations. So I tap in spiritually, making sure like I'm aligned with God in regards to my purpose. So I make sure I affirm some Bible verses and some personal affirmations, and then I even affirm the four agreements that I mentioned in the book, because I want to live by that, because it's helped me break my fear. Why not keep that up? So uh, also I affirm business goals that I want to attain, right? So when it happens, I'm not surprised. Like it was already there, right? I'm celebrating, but I never doubted myself. And also, yes, like goals, I write out my goals, and pretty much I affirm that as well, just personally and business wise. And another thing too, when you do start a business, you gotta, in order for you to work in your purpose, you gotta make sure that you're waking up daily thinking about your dream customer. Like, who are you serving? Because when I wake up, I'm not thinking about money. I'm thinking about my clientele, the people I'm serving, and then money will come with that. But if you wake up thinking like, oh, how can I just like focus on money? You lose your purpose, and when things get rough, you'll quit. So I say all that to say because right before bed, also too, I say out loud my dream customer in regards, who they are. So that's the who. I say the what, meaning that like that's kind of like your mission. Like who is your company serving, and what is it doing? And the why, right? The why of your business. So, the elevator pitch, if somebody asks you, what you guys do, right? Which Gary essentially said for me, right? So somebody asked me, like, I already know the why of my business because it's in my subconscious mind, right? So knowing that is very important, because you will get asked that, and it keeps you whole while you're in the day to day of the business. You know who you're serving, you know what the purpose is, right? Um, so off the top of my head, the who, we're serving the active individual who experiences low back issues, and the what is essentially we're trying to help active individuals restore movement limitations without having to get invasive procedures, right? Like injections or cortisone injections or surgery, right? The why, it's important to help these active individuals to make sure that they don't have unnecessary medical bills. And usually when an active individual gets injured or hurt, they get three options. They get told to stop working out, get surgery, or get cortisone injections. And that's where QMR comes in. We fill in that gap in the healthcare field, right? Just straight off the dome, I know my who, what, and why of my business, and that keeps me grounded. Um, and I'll train our staff on that as well, in regards to like who we serve, right? So that's definitely important to do within your subconscious mind. Once you tackled fear and you now have essentially like the basis of business, and making sure you could have that engraved in your subconscious. And then also, as far as like my mental health routine, I try to read before bed. So like I said, the book that helped me, but I try to read new things. I love personal growth books. Um, so right now, what book am I reading right now? Um, right now I'm reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. So that's a good book. I'm behind on it, but that's what I'm reading. So I try to read a couple pages, before bed. And that's before bed, right? So when I wake up, what I try to do, I try to have silence, right? 3 to 5 minutes of silence, because now you're just letting your subconscious and your conscious thoughts come into your mind, and sometimes when we wake up, we're on social media right away. But essentially, that's other people's lives, right? At the end of the day, you gotta live your life. So I try to stay, upon waking up, I try not to get straight on social media. Um, and I try not to answer text messages, emails, look at that stuff straight. Like as soon as I wake up, I just want silence. Therefore, my thoughts can just marinate. I could let God into my thoughts, and and then I could wake up. I could wake up, right? Do my thing. Also in the morning, I try to read a Bible verse to continue to work on my spiritual. Say a prayer in the morning. And then I try to stay grounded in the field of work that I do. So I try to do like 5 minutes of physical therapy review, looking at some slides that I have curated. Um, and lastly, I have a journal. I have a brain dump journal, because we get so many thoughts like throughout the day, whether it's very important or it's not important, and you want to do that like next week. So instead of like remember everything in your head, you just brain dump it. So in the morning, that's when your thoughts are just free flowing, and it could be something simple like, oh, text so and so. It's not pressing. I don't have to do that 6 in the morning, but it's something that I do have to do. So I just brain dump it. So I do that too. Like if I have to tell my office manager something, but I can't at the moment, and I have this journal on my phone, so you can just create notes, and I do it weekly. So whatever the week is, I'll just create bullet points, brain dump it on my notes, and go from there. So I want to wrap up with saying this, working on your mental health, it allows you to be the best version of you. This then improves your impact in the world, your relationships, and purpose. So wanted to wrap up with that, and definitely give you guys time for a Q&A.
Man, I was like jumping out my seat because I'm listening to some of your books, right? I had just read The Four Agreements, and that's a game changer.
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer. And to know that you are now reading Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends, another game changer.
Right.
Another game changer. Books that have added so much value to my life. Man, and I just thank you for just sharing it, because on the campus, we get a lot of concepts and theories, right? We're going to get a lot of like marketing plans, the 4 Ps. We're going to get a lot of that, right? Yeah. But to know that, especially on this entrepreneurial journey, which has so many ups and downs, like we have to be intentional and mindful about how we take care of ourselves, which when I think about my college journey, a lot of some of the not so healthy habits started in college, right? The overnighters and waiting to the last minute to do things, and right, wait, and it creates this pot of anxiety and stress that sometimes we're not performing as optimally as we could, because we're not setting ourselves up for success with intentionality, right?
Right.
So I guess my first question would be this. in my preparation for this and just knowing you and just knowing the industry, how has now your success, right, helped you in a field where there's still not many individuals that look like yourself in it?
So definitely, you know, my success in regards to like business, I try to, so I'm part of like organizations to where I can be surrounded around people that look like me. So for example, there's an organization called National Association of Black Physical Therapists, and they're all over the country. They have different chapters. They have a New York chapter, Georgia chapter, California chapter, and you know, I'm in that network. So definitely just being surrounded around that community, it definitely helps, keep me grounded in regards to like what I'm doing. And obviously if anybody needs anything from me, I could give anybody advice on anything that they need as well, and vice versa. Also, there's group chats out there that we have within like the country. Since it's not a lot of us, like literally, we have group chats of PTs here in New York that look like me, from California, Texas, you name it, and we're able to communicate if we need any advice or anything like that, or just the day to day, right? The day to day, just feeling frustrated. Now you have the outlet to express yourself, just like I talked about, which is so important because a lot of times, like Black medical providers will hold things in because they don't have anybody to talk to, right? In
Right.
regards to it. So that has been very helpful. Just so I am to answer your question, I am part of organizations and group chats that allow me to tap in and stay connected as a community. And even doing this, man, like that's why I wanted to do this, to give it back, because I know the position I'm in, it's inspiring, younger individuals that want to pursue this profession or even entrepreneurship. Even if you don't want to do entrepreneurship, I know this is impactful, because it was so impactful seeing a minority be a medical provider, because obviously we see the athletes, right? We see the entertainers, and that helps us visualize that. So I already know like the position I'm in is impacting the next generation. So that's why I am a mentor. That's why, I don't mind people shadowing me in regards to if you're interested in physical therapy and anybody that has questions, right? Um, I want to move the profession forward to where it is more diverse.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. And you inspire me, right? And one of the many reasons why, knowing your journey and just knowing where you are, I definitely wanted you to be a part of this, right? Because there are students, and not just, African American students, but no matter where you are, when there is a limited representation, right? In certain areas, sometimes it creates this fear, right? Because sometimes we don't want to be the first one. Sometimes we don't want to be the second one. And it's this fear, right? That a lot of times, what you mentioned through mentoring and community, that helps you address those fears through making things real and making things plain, right? So
Right.
one of the questions in the chat right now, related similar to the earlier part of your story when you talked about your career. And the question is, do you believe the job process is causing more stress on students than ever before? Personally, I see myself taking a networking approach as a way to limit stress and making too many applications. So if I'm reading this question, it sounds like it's related to just getting that first job or getting a job in general, and the experience of putting in so many applications, whether it be through websites and things like that, and feeling like there's nothing happening. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. So definitely in regards to my experience, what really helped me, even just like when I was applying for school and even jobs, networking is so important, right? That saying, show me your network and I'll show you your net worth, if I'm saying that correct. So yes, networking is so important. So what I recommend is that, whether you're applying for school, don't just apply, especially if you're a minority, don't just apply. You want to go out to open house, you want to shake people's hands, and now they can see a face to the name on paper. And people will always remember how you made them feel. They'll always remember a nice smile, you being personable, and that really really goes a long way. That's whether with applying for school or jobs. So if it is a job, not just put it in the application, actually go meet the manager, or drop in on the front desk and say, hey, I just applied, I just want to check you guys out. That goes a long way, and that's something that I learned early. And even now, like, one thing that I'm learning, like, in business, is just like networking is so important. So for anyone that's coming out of school, definitely network. I know it's scary, right? And like I said, like, it's fearful to just like get out your comfort zone. Because I'm not an extrovert, I'm not an introvert either. I'm kind of like in between. But saying hello to somebody, introducing yourself, goes a long way. It goes a long, long way. And the more you can do that with your application, I think that takes stress off the job process. So hopefully that answers that question.
No, that's good. That's good because we see it, I hear it from students. And sometimes you do these applications and feel like your application is in the abyss of applications. And that, that can be frustrating, especially if you're trying to get an internship and you're trying to improve on your skills and, make your resume better so that when you do graduate, you can set yourself up for success.
Right.
And not hear anything back, or just like, I did 50 applications this weekend and like nothing, like, so
Right.
I definitely see it on the campus. I wanted to go back to one of the first steps. So your first step you mentioned was getting that mental health counseling, right?
Correct.
Step one, and how that one step started to help you with the process of dealing with fear. I know some people have the fear of even going to get the help, right? To getting to that step. So how did you overcome even the fear, and how did you allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to go get that mental health counseling?
That's a great question, Gary. So I have to shout out a couple people. I would say my wife definitely helped me. My wife definitely helped me. She saw that I wasn't me. Like, she saw something to where, like, okay, like, I think you should do this. So I definitely shout out my wife for helping me with that. And then I would say, man, I got tired, man. I feel like we all get to a point where it's like you keep doing the same things over and over, you get the same result, right? So I feel like I got to a point where I was just hitting rock bottom. And, instead of, like, giving up on yourself, right? Let me seek help. So I would say it just get into a point where I was just so low. I felt like there was no other option, right? And it is a tough step. It is a tough step to get help. One thing I would say that also helps is, like, finding a counselor that gets you. So just to be direct, like, if you're a minority, try to get a minority counselor, right? If you're a female, right, try to get a female counselor, right? Somebody that could understand you, right, in your day to day. So, for example, my counselor Isaac, he's a black male entrepreneur, faith driven, married, all that stuff. I was like, man, like, I feel more comfortable. I feel like I can express myself. So I feel like seeking that, like, helps, because now it allows you to, like, release the fear a little bit just to get help. So that's a tough question, because everybody's different, but definitely lean on to your family. And I would say talk to the ones that you trust in regards to, like, a family member. And that can be a step in the process of getting, like, counseling help, and then also searching and researching like somebody that gets you and can understand you. I feel like those two help me and get over that initial step of fear.
No, that's good. That's good. Because that first step for so many of us, students, staff, faculty, that first step to go to get the
Right.
help, right? And to recognize that we need help it can be a challenging step.
Yeah.
And whether it's, mental health help or just help in general, right? Where there's like, I know I need help, right? But asking for help is a sign of vulnerability, and I don't want to be vulnerable, right? And we see it on campus, here at the center, where sometimes students have wonderful, great ideas, but they don't want to share with anybody because there's the fear that
Mm-hmm.
someone might steal the idea.
Yeah.
So now you miss out on an opportunity for collaboration and synergy because of fear, right? Fear,
Yeah.
which you spoke about in your talk, right? So I thank you for sharing that. I have another question here. I
Yeah.
like to ask, why do you believe to complete a job application, you have to identify your race, sexual orientation, veterans and companies who claim to be equal employee? I find that these questions should not be asked. I would say that question would probably be outside of the scope of this talk. I thank you for asking that question. But I think that question is not in the scope of this talk. But I can see, not to disregard the question, but I can see how that can be a concern for people. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely, definitely. And
I would say for us, we don't like anybody that we did interviews for, we didn't ask that. So
right, right. And to see, right, and to see, the diversity in your office, right, is really cool. And seeing you, and you mentioned it early, like seeing you in the field gives individuals hope, right? And I think for anyone on this call, like sometimes the fear, what you are afraid to do is what is like necessary, and what
right,
you're about to do can actually inspire others who you've yet to meet.
right. Yeah, man. I have a quote right here in my office, and for clients to look at. I'm looking at it right now. In order for growth to happen, you have to get uncomfortable.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, and the four agreements talks about that. You know.
I want to transition to your routine, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
routine, right? So you went over the 3 steps and then you went into the routine. And the routine is so important. And I think now, as you start to see more podcasts and things like that, people are talking about the power of routines. And I know, if I'm honest, as a college student, my routines, they were there, but they weren't always the best routines, right? And
Hmm.
and being intentional with your time. So how did you explain what your routine was? How did you get guidance on how to structure your routine?
Oh yeah, great question. So my business coach helped me with it. So when I seeked out the business coaching and they tackled mindset, they had not an algorithm, but a sequence of pretty much how to take care of yourself before you handle business. So I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. But I put my own little tweak to it. So that was like the initial idea of like, okay, this is how I could structure it. And like I said, I was my guy Julian Gordon. I was scrolling down Instagram. He's very big on like mindset. He does real estate, and he was telling like you should do your affirmations before bed. So I was like, okay, let me take this piece and let me put it in my routine and do it before bed. So now that created my routine. And everybody's different, right? So let's say you don't like to read before bed, like you like to read in the morning, like you could do that as well. Everybody's different. I definitely recommend having a routine. Just like, like you have a routine to brush your teeth, shower, all that stuff, right? It's like essential for your body. Now, have things essential for your mental, however that is for you, right? And I even mentioned like working out is also part of like my mental health routine. So it's not so I'm very big on taking care of myself, working out as well. I don't work out every day, but that's something weekly that I'm doing. So that's also part of like your mental health whatever helps you, once you eliminate the fear, whatever helps you keep the fear away, that's what you got to do daily, like as a routine. And give yourself grace, because you know, I'm not perfect. I tell people all the time, I'm not perfect. Like every day I'm not gonna do it, but I know I'm holding myself accountable because I have it written down, and I know that I have to do it. Like it's like if you don't do it, like your mind just feels off. It's like if you didn't shower, right? You just feel off. You know, so that's why it's important to create that routine.
Man, that's so good. I'm looking forward to a world where mental health counseling and exercise and a lot of these healthy things become as routine as brushing our teeth. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to a world where, you know, like I'm going to see my therapist today. Like, and it just
yeah,
say it as if you were going to brush your teeth, right? No one would question you for brushing your teeth every day. And
yeah.
you know, I'm just happy that you were here, and I know our student staff, faculty, anyone who's going to watch this in the future, are going to find some gems, because it's not just enough to make money. And I'm glad you mentioned that as a business owner, you're not always thinking about making money, right? That's a given. Like you have to be profitable, but you wake up thinking about your dream customer, and I
Right.
thought that was so big, man.
Man, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, definitely. I just want to be honest with the process, and when your clients come in, they will always be able to tell to see if you're or is it your passion talking. And then when they see it's your passion talking, that's when all the opportunities happen, right? To make money. But if you're just thinking about that to create a business, when things get rough, that's when you want to quit.
Absolutely, man. We actually gonna pin it right there. I want
Yeah,
to
no problem, man.
I want to thank Dr. Lesley for being with us, spending some time with us and presenting. We appreciate you all for being with us today and participating. Look forward to an email with today's recording. This recording is going to go out, so you'll be able to watch it, share it. It's going to be on our YouTube channel. We have our second Lunch and Learn for the month of April. It's going to be on April 26th. And this one is actually going to be in person. So I know it's normally on Zoom, but this one's going to be in person. Our one in person for the year. And that one is going to be entitled From Hobby to Founder, a brief story about starting a yogurt company. So we will see you guys then. Thank you for your participation. Have a good day.